I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. My name is Mark Holland, Mayor here in Kansas City, Kansas, and we're delighted that you have come to participate in our listening tour. This is the third of 8, and so we're very excited that you're here and that you've taken time out of your evening to share your ideas and insights in this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I have a few shout-outs to give before we get started. I want to thank volunteer moderator Jennifer Wilding, who is here. She's going to be speaking here in a little bit. And all of our facilitators around the room. Thank you all very much for volunteering to facilitate this. Let's give them a big hand. I want to thank Rosedale Development Association for helping with this, and the Argentine Neighborhood Development Association for helping with this as well. Let's give them a hand. And I want to start by asking the two of the commissioners to just say a few words of welcome. We'll start with the commissioner of this district, District 3 Commissioner, Ann Murguia.
Thanks, Mayor. I really appreciate it. It's great to have you here in the 3rd District. Welcome. Welcome all of you for coming out tonight. I am very excited to get the results from all of your input tonight. It's going to be a great night. Lots of discussion, lots of community involvement. That's always a good thing. So really just give us lots of good ideas. That's what we need, and that's what we're here for. So welcome again.
And at-large District Commissioner Melissa Bynum is here.
Good evening. I just would like to echo Commissioner Murguia's comments. We're so glad you're here. Hearing your voice is the most critical part of this entire countywide listening tour. So we could not be happier to see you. Now we're going to ask for you to participate, and I know the mayor will explain that process, and we will get to work. Thank you so much.
I also want to bring greetings on behalf of Commissioner Walker. He's also an at-large commissioner, and he is very sorry he's not able to be here. He's committed to going to all of them, but he and his wife are on vacation, and if he were not out of town, he would be here tonight. So he wanted me to be sure to express his regards, and he has already attended another one, and he's going to continue attending them. So anyway, I had offered that I would bring that greeting. I do want to recognize some other elected officials who are here tonight. Mary Gonzalez and Jeff Bryant with the BPU are both here. Stand up. Also, Senator Pat Petty is here. Senator Petty, thank you for being here. Also, we have former Senator Chris Steiniger is here, is in the house. There he is, over here. And former Representative Rick Rehorn is back there. And former Mayor Carol Marinovich is here. And I will say, I'm glad to have former Mayor Marinovich here, because if not for her leadership in the commission nearly 20 years ago, setting in place the development out west, we would not have a STAR bond payoff to be talking about tonight. So I'm very grateful for your leadership in bringing us this tonight. I also want to thank my staff who are here. It's taken a whole team effort to pull these together. It's a lot of logistics, but we have Maureen Mahoney over here. I think she's my chief of staff. Outside, you probably met Rachel Botello and Jasmine Holmes and Lindsay Begum. They're helping to coordinate the sign-up. Jason Banks is back here, and Bill Hurlbrink is here running the video. So thanks to the staff for pulling this together. All right, I want to frame tonight, and I'm not going to talk for very long, which is surprising if you know me. But what I do want to do is spend a few minutes framing the discussion to give you an idea about the goal tonight. So we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with the STAR bond payoff. So let me describe a little bit about what that is. STAR bonds The STR stands for Sales Tax Revenue Bonds. Those were the bonds that were used to help build the Village West development. If you think about the western area of the community, what was out there before Village West, there were about 150 homes, and there, for retail, there was a gas station with a liquor store and a Kentucky Fried, and all the sales tax that came with that, right? If you look fast forward to today with NASCAR, the Major League Soccer, the T-Bones, the Legends, Nebraska Furniture Mart, Cabela's, Schlitterbahn, we now have the #1 tourist destination in the state of Kansas, and we have about 4 different things out there that each one of them would be #1 if it was by itself. And here's a trivia question. Do you know the #1 attraction in the state of Kansas out west? Can you guess #1?
Cabela's.
Cabela's is #1. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, so Cabela's is #1. But we've created this tourist attraction, and while before the development we were generating about $200,000 annually in property tax, that area out there now pays collectively about $12 million a year in property tax, which is a benefit we've had the whole time, because there's only one entity out there that does not pay property tax, and that's NASCAR. Everybody else does. So we are already receiving $12 million in property tax. We now have 9,000 jobs out at Village West that we did not have before. 9,000 jobs. And the sales generated out there generate about $650 million in total sales, which is not only a regional phenomenon, but a national phenomenon. With those sales, there are a couple ways you can finance public properties. One is through tax increment financing. You've probably heard of that, TIF financing. TIF financing is where we pledge the property tax for a project to help develop it. TIF can also pledge sales tax as well. Star Bonds only pledges sales tax. Now, the best thing about Star Bonds, and why I'm such a big fan of Star Bonds, is when we pledge TIF funding, tax increment funding, 100% of that cost is on the unified government and the school districts and the local entities. But when we do Star Bonds, it pledges all of the sales tax, 2/3 of which is the state's money. And I like spending the state's money, apparently more than they do, because they're not spending much money right now. But the sales tax revenue bonds are paying off. They were actually slated to pay off in 2021. They're paying off 4 years early in 2017, and that is going to generate an additional $12 million of revenue for the unified government. It's new revenue every year, $12 million of new revenue every single year. So that gives you a perspective. Now, that's a lot of money, is it not? $12 million is a lot of money. To put it in perspective, though, the budget for the unified government is about $300 million. So as much money as $12 million is, it only represents about 4% of our total budget. So while we have money that we need to spend and invest, we are not going to be able to go crazy, right? What we need to do tonight is get input from you about how to balance how we invest this money. And I try to differentiate between spending the money and investing the money for long-term growth. So what's the best way to invest this new revenue into our community in a way that's going to be the most beneficial? We need to have that balance, and we need to get your input. And one of the things that's going to be interesting is not only looking at the input from this group, but looking at the input from all 8 districts to see if there's a difference in priorities geographically. There may be, and that's information that we want to get as well. If you're interested in what the other districts decide, just know every comment you write down on your piece of paper is going to be posted online anonymously. We don't list who says it, but we're going to put every comment that's listed. The first 2 are already online, so if you go to the Unified Government webpage, wicokck.org, and click on the mayor's face, gently, then it'll pop up the listening tour, and you can see all of the comments from the first 2 and get a gauge on what the other districts are thinking. And you can follow this all the way through November when we finish with all 8 districts. So that's something to think about. One of the things I want to explain is you have a sheet that explains different expenditures of the unified government and how much those cost. one of the things I want you to be mindful of is the idea of committing money one time versus having money spending cash and spending it repeatedly every year. So let me give you an example. There are some expenditures that if you commit, you've committed that money forever. So if we took, let's just say $5 million of the money for property tax relief, and what we'd be doing is we'd be shifting the burden in our city a little bit from property tax to sales tax. We'd be balancing it a little bit. But when we commit $5 million or whatever number we pick to property tax reduction, that's a commitment we've made every year, because you don't want to lower property tax one year and then raise it back up the next year, right? If you're taking it off, you're taking it off for good. So that would mean if we spent $5 million, you'd have $7 million left that would come back that you could spend every year. If you do a cost of living increase for our employees, and to give you an idea, we have about 2,200 employees. Every 1% of cost of living increase we give our employees represents about $1.5 million worth of revenue. A cost of living increase stays on that salary forever. So if you commit money to cost of living increase like property tax, it's committed long term. On the other side, money that you spend one time, for instance, if you refill fund balances or restore your fund balance or your reserve fund, you put $5 million into your reserve fund, next year you have another $5 million that you can do something else with. You see what I'm saying? Because you've not committed it over time. The same thing is true on infrastructure. Any cash infrastructure you spend, if you spend it with cash and you spend $5 million on infrastructure, next year that infrastructure is done and is in place for 30 years. You get $5 million again to do something else with. So that gives you an idea of the difference between a one-time expenditure and an expenditure that you can do every single year. And you'll have time in your group to think about that and talk about it. I do want to give you a little bit of background about why Wyandotte, I don't know if you've heard this, but you may have read this somewhere. Wyandotte County has the highest property tax rate in the region. Is anybody aware of that? Besides everybody? So I want to give you a little background information about how that came to pass. I think it's a very interesting history, socioeconomic story in Wyandotte County. So Kansas City, Kansas in 1960 had 185,000 people and was the largest city in the state. By the year 2000, 40 years later, 60,000 white people had moved out. That's 1/3 of the total population had moved out of the county, and 30,000 people of other ethnicities moved in, which meant we had a very different demographic and we had 30,000 fewer people. We also went in that 40 years from being 20% above the median household income in the state to 20% below the median household income in the state. Now, Kansas City, Kansas isn't the only place that this happened. This happened in every urban area in America, so we're just one example. But what happens, if you think about 30,000 fewer people, that represents about 10,000 empty homes. And Economics 101, oversupply means the property values plummet. And as the property values plummeted over those 40 years, the city would incrementally raise the mill levy to capture some of that loss. Because it turns out it costs just as much to pave a road, whether there's a $25,000 house in front of it or a $250,000 house in front of it. The cost of providing police services and fire services cost the same in different communities, regardless of what your valuation is. And so because our valuation went down, our property tax rate went up. As I've described that to people, it's an explanation, not excuse, right? It's just an explanation, a historical explanation. The good news is, since 2010, Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County has had the first net growth in population that we've had in 50 years. So things are looking good. Now the other side of that is, remember those 10,000 empty homes? The unified government now owns 6,000 empty lots where the houses have fallen down or been torn down. So part of the travesty of it is we've lost homes and we've lost valuation because a home that sits empty for a few years begins to fall down. So part of the challenge we have is how to get the growth in our community going back, and over time to be able to bring our property tax rate back down to what would be competitive in the region. Because right now I would say we do not have a competitive property tax mill levy. So that's a little bit of background. The good news, in addition to growing in population, 40% of all new jobs created in the metropolitan area last year were created in Wyandotte County. And 30% of all the new jobs in the state of Kansas were created in Wyandotte County. We've invested money in the last 8 years. We've built 6 new grocery stores, 2 in Argentine, and we've built them around the community that have been a big benefit. I intend to continue the growing based on 3 areas. 1, economic development, which includes connecting our citizens to jobs, innovation, and healthy communities. I'm going to say a little bit about each of those, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to go over the activity for the evening. But just to give you some ideas. My number 1 priority for economic development is making sure that our citizens have access to the great jobs that we have. Because right now, Wyandotte County is the answer to a trivia question. And the trivia question is this: has anybody watched Jeopardy where you answer with a question, right? So that's what we're playing right now. The answer is, why does Wyandotte County have one of the highest earned wages, but one of the lowest earned incomes in the state? And that's because we have some great jobs in our community, and the people who have those jobs don't necessarily live in our community. So when you look at our 3 largest employers, KU Med is the largest, General Motors, and Cerner. Those 3, we need to make sure that our community and our citizens, our kids, are getting those great jobs, because that's going to balance that back out. So connecting our citizens to our jobs is big. The number 1 initiative I've taken with this is leading by example. One of the things I've done is I've brought in the Department of Justice to look at the hiring practices of our public safety, police, fire, and sheriff, because right now there's a disparity between the diversity of our community and the lack of diversity in our public safety. Addressing that is essential, because if you think of a firefighter, the average firefighter salary in Kansas City, Kansas is $66,000 a year. That's average. The median household income in Wyandotte County is half that. So if we can connect our citizens to these jobs, we're going to do a lot better in terms of moving our community forward. That initiative has been well received. The commission just voted to add 30-some recommendations to the unified government on how we're going to do a better job recruiting, hiring, and promoting women and minorities in all 3 departments. And we're going to see that result in this year's budget as we reinforce our cadet programs to begin hiring local kids. I believe if we hire local kids, we're going to get the diversity that we expect in Kansas City, Kansas. So that project is ongoing, but is one of the big economic development initiatives that I've taken. I can't ask Cerner and General Motors and KU to hire Wyandotte County residents if we're not doing it on our own departments. So that's a big initiative. Innovation, I could talk a little bit about, but it's mostly being more efficient in the government with the technology that we have now. There are cities right now, and we're going to have this, by golly, before I'm done being mayor. There are cities right now that have an app on their phone for 311. And if you see graffiti on a wall, you can touch that app, take a picture with your phone. It'll take the GPS location from your phone and send it to the city. And not just to the city operator, but to the guy whose job it is to get rid of graffiti onto his tablet. He can see it, acknowledge receipt, and you get a text back saying, we got your message about the graffiti at 23rd and Row, or 23rd and 18th Street. I'm messing up my streets. You know what I'm talking about. You're Rosedale. You got it? And then when he goes over and paints over it, he hits complete, and it texts you back and says, we finished it. That's the kind of customer service you should expect in your city these days. We're not there yet, but that's the kind of thing we want to do with innovation to improve customer service. Finally, healthy communities. We're working on a number of initiatives community-wide on Healthy Communities Wyandotte. The signature project we're working on right now downtown is the Healthy Campus with a new community center run by the Y and a new grocery store and new green space. We want a national model for healthy living in an urban area. And I believe if we can move the needle downtown, we can move it anywhere and create a model that's replicable not only in other parts of our city, but other places nationally. So those are some of the things we're working on. You have in your packet the information. I'm going to let Jennifer walk you through that. But I just want to close by saying thank you very much for taking time out of your evening. You could be home watching the second game of the doubleheader for the Kansas City Royals, but I appreciate your being here instead, yes, to give your input on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Thank you very much and enjoy your evening. I will be here all evening if you have any questions. All right. Nozella, group number 10, let's give us your report.
All right, if you were with group 10, raise your hand. We did cut. All right, all right. We decided in our group that $3 million would go to property tax relief.
Is that what they do in school? And you do it too.
You're supposed to do it back. Dun, 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 dun.
That's what they do in elementary school. And we're in a school. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so property tax relief, we wanted to set aside $3 million for that. For demolitions, we had $500K. For code enforcement, we had $1 million. For street resurfacing, we had $1 million. For mowing the vacant lots, we had $500K. For aging services, we had $2 million. For park improvements, we had $1 million. For police services, we had $1 million. And we had $2 million for others because there was a concern for jobs, for redevelopment, and for our waste management. So we lumped this group lumped that all together and allowed $2 million for that. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed working with you.
We're going to go now to group number 3, and then we're going to have group number 9 on deck.
First of all, thank you everybody who participated on my group number 3. We decided that we needed more money. We needed about $15 million, but we have $5 million property tax relief, demolition $700,000, code enforcement $350,000, street resurfacing $1.7 million, mowing $1 million, snow removal $300,000, aging services $950,000, auto registration $250,000, park improvements $2.5 million, police services $700,000, fire services $500,000. Now, on the others, obviously we're over the quota, but our group thought that education, transportation, aging in place, and business incubators would be a very good topics to invest into. Thank you very much.
All right, if group number 9 would come up, and then group number 8 is going to be next. So be ready. 9 and then 8. Feel free to walk this way if you're a presenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of group number 9, can you raise your hands, please? Very energetic group. We were running out of time and trying to do quick math, so hopefully this adds up to $12 million. Really interesting discussion about the merits of making a big difference in some places and lots of small differences other places, but this is where we came out. $3 million towards property tax relief, $2 million towards street resurfacing with the thought that there's some other infrastructure needs I'll get to in just a minute, $500,000 towards aging services, $1 million towards park improvements, $500,000 each towards police and fire, with thinking that fire specifically needs to go for equipment, modernizing equipment. And a lot of our discussion centered around that other category. And we came up with really 5 priorities in there we thought were important. First is some sort of civic technology initiative to bring the technology in City Hall into the 21st century, $500,000 there. A 3% salary increase across the board for non-union employees, which would be about $1.8 million. Other infrastructure including sidewalks, general CIP, capital improvement plan dollars, and sewer improvements, $1.2 million. And then $500,000 each for animal control and employee and management training with a focus on improving customer service at City Hall. So that should come out to $12 million. Thank you.
All right, group number 8, And group number 7 is on deck. Group number 5 is on deck. Group number 8 and then 5.
There's some representatives from group number 8 back there. Everybody else, raise your hand. Thank you very much. That was in group 8. Thanks for your participation. We had quite the discussion on property tax relief. We were within a range from 1 million to 10 million. So a lot of our time was spent on coming to a consensus. So for property tax relief, we came up with 8 million. And the belief and the feeling was that we needed to fulfill the promises made some time ago with consolidation and to be competitive with the other counties around us to attract more residents here to Wyandotte County. Code enforcement, 0.5. Street resurfacing, 1.5. And then our next big discussion was on park improvements. And we had a large interest in making a priority to the Quindaro ruins. And so that was their compromise, is putting 2 million. We weren't sure if that was other or park improvements, so that's where the other 2 million for our 12 million.
Number 7, and then your 5? 7 and then 5.
All right, we had a group consisting of 6 people, but what we lacked in numbers, we made up for an overall discussion. We talked so much, as a matter of fact, we didn't quite fill out our sheet all the way through. A large amount of our time was concentrated on property taxes. Again, we saw values from no property tax reduction to up to $6 million. And we settled on 4 eventually, as and people were saying we need to see again the promises fulfilled and see property taxes come down. And even if it was only $34 a year on a $100,000 house, we got here by $34 a year increases as to where we are now, which is why we need to see that go down. Codes enforcement and improved manpower, more folks out on the street working to enforce codes. Streets, we're looking at 2 million with emphasis on not just street repair, but also sidewalks and curbs. And then other categories we had mentioned, we're looking at overall more money for education, workforce development, especially also increasing the amount in our reserves so we can improve the bond rating. Social services, efficiencies altogether. How do we work to make ourselves more efficient and save money that way inside the government? And then public arts program was also mentioned in our group. Thank you.
All right, group number 5 and then group number 6 is going to be on deck.
Good evening. Group number 5 was, as it is every time I have one of these, it was the best group. There was a lot of lively discussion, and it took quite a while to pare the number down. We wanted to spend about $18.5 million, so we need bigger sales tax coming in from the Legends. Property tax relief, we're going to go with $3.3 million, which is our largest bucket of anything. The street resurfacing was $2 million, and one of the caveats is they want to make sure they keep up on pothole fixes, not just resurface. Mowing vacant lots, about $600,000. Snow removal, about the same amount. Aging services, $1.1 million. One person pointed out the Meals on Wheels program, making sure there's plenty of money there. Park improvements, about $1.5 million. Police services, $950,000. And then our biggest bucket was other. We had $750,000 in other just for reserves for the city, which is important to help bring up bond ratings. And $1.45 million was spread across many different things. Some of the more important ones that were brought up were reduce the pilot, pay raises for UG employees, sidewalks, especially in front of schools, animal control, and school meals, and one that I found very interesting, free parking for UG business. And the main reason was they were talking about when they go downtown to pay for their tags, they're having to pay to park to go in and do UG business. So they would like to see maybe a 1 hour or 2 hour window of free parking just so they can go do UG business. So Good group. Thank you very much for your input.
All right, group number 6, and then I believe it will be group number 4. 6 and then 4.
Hi, group number 6 was a small but very thoughtful crew. I appreciate all your good group think on this. Really, I think that what our group found to be the most important is providing amenities and a quality of life that will keep people in Wyandotte County and attract more people to move here. And really, I think that we landed on giving $2 million to property tax relief, really as a way to show folks that are here, stay here. We're gonna relieve some of that burden for you. And then in addition, what are the things that are most important to people and communities for families? Safety, crime and safety, and a beautiful neighborhood. And so that's why the bulk of our other spending went to really parks at $3 million, police at $2 million, and fire at $2 million. And then we thought about what are the other things that make a community wonderful. And so demolishing houses to increase for beautification purposes, increasing codes enforcement at $300,000, demo at $100,000. And mowing vacant lots at $500,000. Again, just about keeping the community clean and making sure that it's a place where people want to live. We came in at $1 million for street resurfacing and $700,000 for aging services, $300,000 for snow removal, $0 for auto registration. And I just want to say that again, with the $700,000 for aging services, the thinking is that with the baby boomer generation getting older, again, we want to have those kinds of services that will make them want to stay and age in Wyandotte County. In addition, we had $100,000 extra left over, so there were a couple of other lines that we wanted to put those into. $50,000 for animal control and another $50,000 for community programs for youth, so that we're actually providing things for folks at all ends of the spectrum in Wyandotte County, from youth to the aging. And one creative idea that we had that combined two of these things was, what about if we came up with a program where we actually paid youth to mow the lots? Thanks.
All right, now group number 4 and then 2. And then I read somewhere the last shall be first and the first shall be last. So you'll be last. All right.
Hello, I was group 4. We had 8 participants in our group. So let me kind of set out how our group decided to allocate their $12 million. We took every person in the group's number of what they wanted to spend, totaled that number, and then divided that number by 8. So what I'm reporting out is the average dollar amount in the categories from our group. So in property tax relief, the average that the group wanted to spend was $750,000. In demolition of residential and commercial properties, the average was $812,500. Code enforcement, the average was $190,000. Street resurfacing was a little over $2.1 million. Mowing vacant lots, the average for the group was $140,000. Snow removal, plowing, and treatment, the average was $500,000. Aging services, sort of consistent with what we've heard from the other groups, the average for our group was a little over $1.1 million. Personal property auto registration at the courthouse, the average was $37,500. Park improvements, a little over $1.1 million. Police services, $993,750. Is that right? That's right. That's right. Fire services, $250,000. Now, we had some money left over, and they all went into the other category. So what we did in the other category we had 4 areas. We had curbside recycling and composting. We had scholarships for higher education. We had community centers, and we had nonprofit and small business support. So of the people in the group, we averaged how much each person in the group wanted to delegate as a percentage to that particular category. So in curbside recycling, the average was 13.8%. That equated to $599,000 that the group wanted to spend on recycling, composting, and curbside work. In education, scholarships for higher education to entice students to get the kind of training they need to live, work, and stay in our community. The average was 41.7%, and the dollar amount was $1.8 million for that activity. Community centers, the average of the group was 22%, and that equated to $969,536. And then nonprofit small business support and development, the average of the group was 21.7%, and that equated to $938,000 that they would spend on that activity. We had a lot of debate in the other category and came to the consensus that we would take the other category and divide it into those 4 groups that I just mentioned. Thank you.
You can tell Gordon's the county administrator. That was thorough and meticulous. Okay, so some of our themes were money should go to the property tax relief because that's why people voted for the STAR bonds. The group wanted to put money back in reserves because they felt that if something comes up, which it always does, it would be good to have that money. I'm sorry, what? Okay. I'll start over. All right, our group felt that money should go to the property tax relief because that's what they felt they voted for by voting for the STAR bonds. They also felt that some money should go to reserves. Didn't need to be a lot, but if something comes up, it'd be useful to have it, and something always comes up. Code enforcement, they wanted to increase the aesthetics of the neighborhoods. The police department, they felt, needed to reflect the community. And they felt one of the ways that they could, do that was by having cameras in the police cars and body cameras, and they felt with everything that was happening nationwide, that was really important. And then one of our participants said something that we thought was just really great. She said, I invested in Wyandotte County, and I want to see Wyandotte County invest in me. So she felt that she bought a home here, raised her kids here, everything, and she wanted some returns on that as far as her skin in the game. So in the end, we put $6 million towards property tax relief. We put $500,000 towards demolitions and $300,000 towards code enforcement. They put $200,000 towards mowing the vacant lots. They put $1 million towards the aging services. They identified the fact that we have an aging population in Wyandotte County. $1 million into park improvements, and $1 million into police services, specifically for those things they talked about, body cameras and making the police look like the community. Under other, they put $500,000 into the community development organizations. They put $1 million into reserves, and then another $500,000 into infrastructure with like a kind of asterisk on curbs and sidewalks. Okay? Thanks.
Good evening. I worked with a wonderful group number 1, and I also had this awesome gentleman assist me tonight. First of all, I want to say that group 1 had some awesome dialogue that went on in regard to how they wanted to allocate money into property tax relief, or if they wanted to spend that money on social services. So from that dialogue, we gathered the following information: that we wanted to allocate $1 million into property tax relief, they felt as though the property taxes that they would get, the property tax relief that they would receive from $3 million was not enough for incentive for them to allocate a larger amount of money in a property tax relief, so we settled on $1 million. Also, demo, we have $500,000. Codes enforcement, $600,000 that they wanted to see. More vacant lots, have mowing crews there, and they also wanted to see some of their neighbors around them have more enforcement on what the regulation, and also seeing aesthetics improve in their area. Street resurfacing, $1 million. And one thing that we kind of tucked in street resurfacing as well was we wanted to see more sidewalks in our neighborhoods. So that's why we chose to put such a large amount in street resurfacing. Also, mowing, $50,000. Unfortunately, we didn't put any money into snow removal because we decided as a group that there was already adequate servicing as far as snow removal in those winter seasons. Aging services, $1 million. Personal property tax, we didn't put any money into that specific service. Parks, $1 million, because there were many people in the group that said they wanted to see more parks in their neighborhood. I believe one of the group members stated she went out and tried to find a park for her kids just to play at, and she ended up in Bonner Springs. So she wanted to see more parks in the area. Also, police services, $1 million. Fire services, $1 million. So we spent a total of $7.6 million in those social services. And then the group really focused on putting $3 million into the reserve because they wanted to see a decrease in deficit spending in the Wyandotte County area. One of our group members spoke upon. And also we wanted to increase, we wanted to put $1.4 million into wage increases because there's been a wage freeze for a long time in the Wyandotte County area, and we wanted to see that the people that are working in this area also get a raise, or I guess we'd say, what else?
More money for UT employees.
That would be wonderful. Unfortunately, I'm a state employee. All right. But that's how we spent our money, and I think that my group made a wonderful decision, and we had a lot of dialogue that came from our discussion. Thank you.
All right, that completes the program tonight. I want to thank you all again for coming out. Please be sure to turn in your evaluation. The evaluation for each one of these has been invaluable in planning the other ones. We feel like they're getting smoother and smoother as we go. By the time we do the 8th one, we're going to have it down perfectly. So your evaluations are great. Be sure to check online to see the results if you'd like to see them all. And remember, if you have a neighbor who missed this, let them know you can go to as many of these as you want. It doesn't have to be the one in your district, and you should have a sheet that has all the dates and times of all of them. So be sure to pass that along to other neighbors. But give yourselves a hand. Great job tonight. Thank you for coming out.